Welcome home, good hunter. What is it you desire?
Although Bloodborne is similar to Dark Souls, the biggest difference is that Bloodborne has a much faster pace that rewards aggression. Unlike Dark Souls games, which allow players to block some hits entirely, Bloodborne requires players to be constantly on the move as they dodge or counter hits. With more Souls-like games being released, fans have started to look towards those emphasizing a fluid, fast-paced style of combat resembling Bloodborne. Fans looking for Souls-likes that are more Bloodborne than Dark Souls can try some of these games. What's going on, guys? Kat here, and welcome back to Game Rant. Today I'm going to tell you 10 games that are more like Bloodborne than Dark Souls. Coming in at number 10 is Lies of P. This title is actually the closest thing to a Bloodborne sequel. Lies of P is a game that intrigued everyone with its reveal. The unique setting and Bloodborne-esque art style hooked many people, and the game showed that it deserved so much more than just being compared to From Software's Lovecraftian action RPG when it launched. While boss fatigue is a pretty notable problem in this game that sets in later on, the first 15 hours or so that players spend in the game can feel breathtaking. Areas are packed with detail, enemies are tricky to deal with, and the overarching narrative serves as a great hook to draw players into this world. For number 9, we have Hollow Knight. This indie gem allows players to explore a dying world with a gothic atmosphere. Hollow Knight has safely cemented a spot as one of the greatest Metroidvania Souls-likes ever made. The fact that this game manages to combine the best of both genres so easily earns it a commendation. Fans who want to check out a charming game that takes place in a rich world with amazing combat should look no further than Hollow Knight. The wait for the DLC, Silksong, has become excruciating, to the point where a retread of the first game might not be the worst idea. A lot of fans will take it suspiciously from work the moment the sequel comes out, showing just how strong Hollow Knight's impression was. Our number 8 pick is Remnant from the Ashes. It's easy to label this game as nothing more than a third-person shooter Souls-like. The game is extremely challenging, and players need to time their dodges immaculately to get through this game unscathed. The co-op gameplay of this title is pretty interesting and certainly makes some boss fights more manageable. Given how tight the gameplay is, it's genuinely surprising to find out that the world of this game is somewhat randomly generated. It's just one of the many ways that Remnant keeps things fresh and engaging. Exploring the world with a friend makes for an engaging co-op experience that more fans will have a great time with. Coming in at number 7 is Dead Cells. This game is a Metroidvania Souls-like that rewards aggression in its combat. It's a shame that the majority of Dead Cells' PR came from the plagiarism issue that plagued a rather infamous review of the game. However, it still brought eyes to the game and made people appreciate its quality. The roguelike mechanics of this game are integrated well and make each run of the game all more exciting. Dead Cells is not the easiest game around, but players who are patient and learn the game's mechanics will have a great time. The repetition is more than manageable, and the collaboration with Castlevania makes it even more engaging. Players should check out this game as it deserves all its plaudits and then some. Our number 6 pick is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is a Souls-like Star Wars game with engaging and approachable fast-paced combat. The idea of a Star Wars Souls-like was something that players didn't realize they needed until it arrived. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order might have its issues, but the game itself is excellent and a joy to play through. The great story and brilliant combat of the game are two of its biggest highlights. With most of the technical issues being patched out, there's no better time to check out this brilliant game. It's a shame that the sequel squandered all of the goodwill from the first game because of an unacceptably broken launch on PC, but that shouldn't take away from the brilliance of the first game. At number 5, we have Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. This game is an evolution of Bloodborne's fast-paced action with a major focus on deflecting attacks. Sekiro is the most obvious answer for Souls-like fans who enjoy the natural aggression of Bloodborne over the patience in Dark Souls. Ramping up the pace even further, Sekiro is another FromSoft game that deviates from the traditional Souls-like formula by placing a heavier emphasis on rhythm and split-second decisions. While the Dark Souls games required players to be patient in fighting bosses or enemies, Sekiro follows Bloodborne in terms of combat pace and continuous movement. The slow, methodical approach in Dark Souls games is replaced with fluid combat against aggressive enemies. Instead of the traditional Souls-like focusing on stamina management, Sekiro relies far more on players' understanding of the timing of their enemies. Although fans looking for a more standard Souls-like experience might find Sekiro to be different than they expect, Bloodborne fans who enjoyed the heavy emphasis on offense will find Sekiro to be a natural evolution. Coming in at number 4, we have the Nioh series. This series was one of the first popular Souls-like games, with a focus on fast-paced, aggressive combat. The Nioh series bears some similarities to Dark Souls, but it's more akin to the tempo found in Bloodborne. While Nioh retains the basic Souls-like mechanics of bonfires and a similar leveling system, its combat centers around the stamina system called Ki. Similar to Bloodborne's rally mechanic, the Ki system in Nioh can be used to maintain momentum and enable players to extend their ability to fight. Developed by Team Ninja, Nioh takes a lot of influence from the action titles like Ninja Gaiden, and favors more aggression than standard Dark Souls games. During the development of Nioh, Bloodborne's producer, Masaki Yamagiwa, also gave the Nioh team advice on how to adjust the game's difficulty so it never becomes unreasonable. Nioh's strength is in its intricate combat system that uses stances for different playstyles. Nioh has one of the tightest combat systems in a Souls-like game, and that makes it a perfect choice for Bloodborne fans who enjoyed the emphasis on aggression. Our number 3 pick is Salt and Sanctuary. This game arguably sparked the trend of 2D Metrovania Souls-likes, with dodging being the key to victory. Ever since Souls-like games have caught mainstream attention, they've been linked with Metroidvanias for the sense of exploration and level design that comes with platforming elements. Over time, more Souls-like games have taken influences from Metroidvanias, and this is especially true of 2D Souls-likes. Bloodborne's playstyle emphasizes constant player movement and aggression, which is similar to Salt and Sanctuary. Salt and Sanctuary is how Bloodborne would feel as a 2D side-scroller and introduces interesting platforming mechanics to provide depth for its lack of a third dimension. Featuring tight combat mechanics with a tense atmosphere, Salt and Sanctuary takes on a faster pace than typical Souls-likes, thanks to its Metroidvania influences. Alongside interconnected level design and a giant skill tree, Salt and Sanctuary offers a unique spin on the genre that Bloodborne fans should enjoy. For number 2, we have Code Vein. This is an anime Souls-like where timing is imperative in combat. Code Vein builds upon Souls-like mechanics by combining them with a traditional JRPG storyline and anime aesthetic. Much like Bloodborne, Code Vein emphasizes fast-paced combat that relies on timing. The game's appeal stems from its customization options, as players can change classes on the fly and experiment with different builds. Unfortunately, the assortment of combat options does make the experience more uneven than Bloodborne, but players who enjoy experimentation should find Code Vein's freedom more satisfying than other Souls-likes. On the other hand, Code Vein's approach to the narrative is different than Bloodborne or Dark Souls. As it features a more traditional narrative, Code Vein emphasizes character interactions. Whereas the lore from From Software games is often purposely obscured, Code Vein offers a clear-cut narrative direction that limits the feeling of discovery players often look forward to in Souls-likes. As far as Souls-likes go, Code Vein shares a few similarities with Bloodborne in terms of combat and mechanics, but differs greatly in exploration and narrative. Bloodborne fans looking for a more traditional narrative that retains the fluid combat mechanics should give Code Vein a try. Our number 1 pick is the Surge series. These games are great sci-fi Souls-likes, and the sequel's aggressive combat is a massive improvement from the first. Aesthetically, the Surge series goes in a different direction from traditional Souls-like games, in that it takes place in a futuristic setting as players fight in exoskeletons. However, it does retain many elements in its combat system and emphasizes the aggressive style of play found in Bloodborne. Developer Deck 13 has stated that while the Surge shares similarities to many titles in the Dark Souls series, it's best approached from a state of mind like Bloodborne. The combat in the Surge is snappy and responsive, with a quick dodge that doesn't cost much stamina. However, this mechanic can easily turn on the player if they don't approach battles tactically. Much like Bloodborne, controlled aggression is the key in the Surge, as the game rewards players for remaining on the offensive despite taking damage from enemies. While the Surge is different from Souls-like games in terms of its design and environments, its aggressive combat style is reminiscent of Bloodborne and offers fans a different take on the genre. If you're a longtime Bloodborne fan looking for your next fix, these games should hit the spot. Thanks for watching!